Hello and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Skye. I hope you're doing well. I feel like it's been a hot minute since I recorded a podcast, but today's episode is going to be all about becoming familiar with your own capability because I think if you've been listening for a while to the podcast, I think you all know that I'm a big believer in you are what you tell yourself you are. And I think that's a beautiful thing, but I think also we need to know how to take advantage of that and not let it take advantage of us. And I think it's just I've been journaling about it recently, and I thought the past 3, 4 months I've just done so many things that I never thought I could, and I guess that stems from not knowing my own capability. And I think there's a beauty with knowing your own capability because I think unconsciously we're limiting ourselves because if we put these things on ourselves like, oh, like we can only get so high until we get to that space and we're like, okay, well, where do we go now? And I think I may have kind of reached that place and it kind of took some reflecting on myself to be like, okay, well, where am I going? Like, because in my head, I hadn't planned out the future for myself, which sounds deeper than it is, but like I didn't quite know where I fit in it all because how am I meant to, if you've got an idea in your head of where you can go, what you can do, and I think everyone has, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Like, I think it's really important to know that you can do anything you put your mind to. But I think we've all unconsciously got ideas of what we're going to do in a year. So let's just take 1 year, because for me, that's like a good amount of time. So at the start of the year, I had ideas of what I was going to do. I mean, I don't think any of my thoughts could like actually prepare me for what's happened this year. But, I had a rough idea. And I think what happened was like maybe summertime this year, I just thought I felt really stuck. So I was like, where do I go? Like, I feel like I've reached the highest limits I set myself, if that makes sense. And then I kind of got there and I was like, well, I don't know where to go because I didn't plan it this far out. So it kind of just took so much trial and error to get myself to a place where I felt comfortable in because it was so, like nothing ever grows in a comfort zone. However, where are you meant to go if you don't have an idea for yourself? And it wasn't like I didn't know what I wanted to do. It's just I don't know how I was meant to execute it. I didn't know what I was meant to be doing and all these things. So it took a good 2 months, like really coming back to myself and being like, okay, this is actually my time to realize how I want to spend the rest of my year. And I'm not saying you have to change every year. Like I really don't agree with that. But like for me, I feel like every year is kind of a pivotal moment. I'm not saying like a new year, like it could be like middle of the summer to next summer's pivotal moment, but I feel like 365 days is a good amount of time for me to like have my chapters, if that makes sense. Anyway, and I think I've just come to terms with myself like when we put these words on ourselves, when we put these limits on ourselves, no matter if it's so unconscious and we don't even realize we're doing it, like I think the easiest level to realize when we put limits on ourselves is when we're visibly like we're actively talking. We're like, oh, I couldn't do that. Oh, I couldn't be like that person. Or oh, that's out of my comfort zone. You know what I mean? That is actively easy to spot, like limiting ourselves. And then I think you've got the next level of that, which is almost like just not putting yourself in those scenarios because you can't imagine yourself in those. But the thing is, how are we ever meant to get to where we want to be if we don't put ourselves in those scenarios? Which I think I've been really good this year at recognizing and putting myself in those spaces, anyways. And then I think you've got the third level of it, which is all up in your brain and in your body language, in a sense of like, and your mind. And I guess it's a mind game of just like, how do you beat your mind? Like, how do you get to a space where you can just override that voice of like, oh no, that's just not something I want to do? And I think it almost becomes our brain tells ourselves we just don't want to do it. And it's of course we don't. Why would we want to do that? You know what I mean? Like, because we've never even set ourselves up for the possibility of these things happening. We're like, oh, but I wouldn't want it. And I think that's the third level of it because it's like, it's not obvious because you're not telling yourself I can't. You're just like, why would I want to? And I think I've come to terms with that recently, that maybe I've been doing that to myself a bit. And I think in every podcast, I feel like I reflect a lot because obviously my thoughts and feelings are from reflections of my life and everything. And I think every when I listen back to episodes, I'm like, oh, okay, I've learned so much. And I feel like this is another moment of like, I've had a brainwave, if that makes sense. But my point being of saying all this is I really don't think you need to be having these, to be connected to yourself, to be happy and whatever, like to have a good life or like whatever you want to take that as to mean. And I don't think that me makes you any more, any less, or like, I don't think this means I was mean to myself 3 months ago, or that just me having loads of realizations quite regularly doesn't mean I was any less 2 months ago. It doesn't make me any less a month ago, and it doesn't make me any less of a knowledgeable person a year. Well, maybe it does a year ago, but like 5 months ago, like because that, you know what I mean. So I just want to put that out there. Anyway, so I think I was unconsciously putting these things in my head of like, oh, I don't want to do that. Because I was happy where I was. But as we all know, nothing grows in a comfort zone. So how are you meant to get out of that comfy space when you're kind of face to face with the thing of, I just don't, why would I want to? And your brain's telling you, why would I want to? And that's all you're hearing. It's not, I can't, because I've beaten level 1 and 2. But level 3 is like, oh, I don't want to. But like, how do you know the difference between I don't want to and I actually don't want to, or this is just the voice in my head masking I can't. And I was listening to this audiobook. If you're looking for a new book or you have Spotify or somewhere you can listen to audiobooks, please listen to the book by Brianna. I don't actually know how to say her last name. It's called The Mountain Is You. It will come up straight away. It's such an incredible book. I'm like halfway through it. I'm listening to the audiobook. And the chapter I'm currently reading is all about the difference between intuition and like intrusive thoughts, like the intrusive voice. And she said, your intuition cannot predict the future. It's not a fortune teller. When you have thoughts in your head and you're like, oh, that's going to happen to me, that is the intrusive thoughts. That is the part of your brain telling you, that's the part of your brain that's against you, if you know what I mean. Like, you know what I mean? That's damaging you. Your intuition can only speak for your current self. So if you're sat here right now and you just get like a little light bulb in your head for this current moment, that is your intuition. I can't really think of any examples, so I'm hoping that resonates with you. And that really resonated with me. Like understanding that my intuition can only work in this current time and cannot predict the future, cannot tell me about the past. It's about this current moment. It's about this exact second I am in the moment. Intrusive thoughts are going to try and predict the future, be like, oh, it's going to happen like this. So when I listened to that book, I was like, right, I have a feeling that is what's been happening the past, maybe, however long it's been, of just telling myself, oh, I wouldn't want to. But how do I know I wouldn't want to? And I think there's a couple of times this year where I've told myself, oh, I don't want to. But I'm like, I think I do. I think I'm just scared. Like, I went to this class, it was a handstand class, and I have so much anxiety around doing handstands. I could not tell you why. I really want to be able to do handstands. I have a burning desire to be able to do handstands. So I went to a class and I was really anxious. I was going to go by myself. And then I asked my sister, and then we did end up going together, but we weren't gonna go. And then she was like, I'll let you know literally an hour before we leave. But I was like, "Oh, I just don't want to go. Like, I was like, oh, I don't want to go anymore. And I was like, no, 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 you do want to go. You're just putting yourself off because you're scared. And I was like, okay, fine. Like, I kind of got that. So I think there has been moments in my life where I've caught it, if that makes sense. Like, I have realized it. But I think if that's what becomes your norm, you're never gonna catch out because that's what's normal. And I think now I'm probably in a stage of my life where I am just noticing that voice a bit more of like, oh, I wouldn't want to. And I think maybe the past week, that's probably what's been on my mind, just been like, do I not want to, or do I just not think I'm capable? So, where the title of the podcast episode comes from is we need to become familiar with our own capability, because I guess this roots from not knowing my own capability, not knowing what I am actually truly capable of. And I'm not saying we will ever know what we are truly capable of, because realistically, if we're put in we will do anything for ourselves, to keep ourselves alive and whatever. And that's just like natural instinct. So we're never truly going to know what we're capable of, but just having a rough idea, like get familiar with it. And actually, this episode was going to be called Get Familiar with Your Own Beauty. But I feel like I've done quite a few episodes on like body image and, not feeling the need to change your body. And it's all like a mindset thing. And it's just like, stop, I feel like I've done a lot on that. But so that didn't feel too right for the moment for me. But this thing, like, getting familiar with your own capability felt very right for me right now. But I do want to go on to become familiar with your own beauty as well in a second. Anyway, so I think getting familiar with your own capability is just like when you do something that you think you can't, just be like, yeah, I did do that. And like make a mental note in your head and think, I did not think I could do it, but I just did it. And I actually did it with like somewhat ease, or I did it and I finished it and I feel proud of myself. And I think I've forgotten the power. Like I say, I feel like I say this in a lot of episodes. I feel like I forget the power of ourselves, like the power of our own voices, like our own thoughts and stuff, very occasionally. But like if we do something and we tell ourselves, well done, like if we do something that we really didn't want to do, then we do it and like, you did amazing, congratulations, like you're fantastic. And we tell ourselves these, our brain is gonna automatically connect those two things to be a good thing eventually. If you do it 5 times, it's going to eventually become a good thing. Just as like if you have a bad experience with something, your brain's going to mark that as bad and put it in the bad box or whatever. So I think how I'm using this is like when I do something that is I feel is beyond my capability, and I do it and I actually do it with like flying colours, or I do it with a lot of struggle, but I still did it. No matter what, I did it. I've been making a mental note to be like, I did that. I was capable of that and I'm capable of more. And I did this 15K trail run. I'm in a half marathon training block at the moment. And I have done a half marathon before. Very, very, very bad idea that was. I did not train for it, but well, I'm proud of myself anyway. So quite anxious coming into this training block because I don't have fond memories of half marathon. But I was like, I can do this and I actually want to. Like I have such a desire to do this and it felt right for me. And I am smashing the training, but I was doing my longest ever run on the plan and it was a 15K, and I found this run club and it's in the proper like woods, middle of nowhere, massive hills, like climbing up hills vibes, and it's hard. And I did a 15K trail run club and I was like slow and steady pace, like social, I think it was like steady and social pace. I was like, I can do that. And I didn't even think I I signed me and my dad up, and then I messaged him. He's at work. I was like, "Hi, you are now you're booked on this day. We're going to this run club, and yeah, also it's 15 kilometers anyway." And he's like, "Oh, okay." Like he runs long distance anyway. Like he can easily just bash out half marathon type thing. But he was like, for me, that's like a big distance. Like I have not run that distance since my half marathon, which was in June. And even then, that was I don't really count as, well, no, I do count that as running, but like that was traumatic. Anyway, so yeah, and I did this run. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. In the sense, the first 6K, so it was a 15K. The first 6K, I was like, I have to turn back. I cannot do this. And I remember I saw this video of someone I really like on social media. And she always like, I remember watching this video and she was on a run and she was like, I told myself, I was like, oh, I can't do it. And she goes, but I could. And this was like her head, like her inner monologue. And it was like, I can't, but I can because I am. And then she was like, she was all that was repeating. And for some reason, that really stuck with me. And whenever I find it really hard, I go to myself, I'll be like, oh, I can't do this. But I can because I am doing it. I physically am doing it. So why would I tell myself I'm not? And I told myself that so much yesterday. I went on the hardest run of my life. I cried so much. It was mentally hard, not physically, but I just felt so incapable and it was awful. And I was like, I can't do this. And I was like, I was really getting in my head about it. And I was like, I can because I physically am doing it and I am mentally capable of doing this. I am physically capable of that and I know I am physically capable of it, but mentally, this will improve my strength for the next run. And also what got me through my last training block I was in was, if you could give your future self 10% extra, like a little extra boost, would you? because that is what you're doing today. By getting through this run, by proving yourself wrong, and by pushing through, you are giving your future self that bit of an extra push of luck, of a bit of an extra bit of strength, a bit of extra oomph, if you know what I mean. Because say when I run my half marathon and I go through this really bad mental headspace, I'm like, I have gotten through this before, I can do it again. Or I do this really hard run, I'm like, I did those intervals, which is like speed, I did that speed session for my run, so I know I can push through this like really hard hill that I'm running up. Or, just that type of thing. And I think that is so, so, so important to take a mental note on, that we've always got so much more in us than we believe, and that doesn't mean you need to use it though. That does not mean that every day should feel like you're using the last bit you've got in you. I understand when it does feel like that, and I understand when it feels like you are living off that like last 1% in you. But don't feel like you have to use that. That is like power saving mode on your phone. Like, you'd use that for last resort. It shouldn't be on 24/7. And if you do notice it being on, maybe you need to make a little mental change. Anyway, so I think coming back to the topic a bit more, we are limitless humans. I believe that thoroughly, and it's only us and society that puts limits on ourselves, which is a very normal thing, which is fine. But we cannot, I know I've said this so many times, we cannot grow in comfort zones, we cannot grow in limits, we cannot grow in a box. So how are we meant to live the lives we want to live? How are we meant to do the things that we are yet to experience if we stay in this contained environment? And no one else can tell you to do it other than yourself. And you can listen to everything in the world, or you can read every book or whatever, but until you find a way that connects with yourself and you just decide in yourself that I am meant for more, I deserve more, and I can do more, and I actually want to do more, until then, you won't find that immediate change. And it's never an immediate change, but you will notice such a perspective shift and a mindset shift and a motivation shift as soon as you wrap your head around the fact, you want more, and you deserve more, and you can get more. And I mean this in whatever way your life takes you. So for me personally, like I posted, oh no, by the time this video is out, but yeah, I posted this video of me running, and it's like running progress, and it's like my first ever run to my most recent run. And it's basically, the caption was like, I've been feeling very disappointed in my running recently, because I feel like I haven't been able to notice progress and everything, and I've just been feeling very deflated and stuck. But I was like, I'm just not taking into account that I'm just doing something that I've never done before. I've never actually been in a proper half marathon training block, because the last half marathon I did, I didn't train for it because I got ill before it. So I did it ill, which was not the vibe. But yeah. So, I'm doing something that's really hard. Anyway, point being, that's the video I'm posting today. What's my point of telling you that? Yes. So in the caption I wrote, this time, today, last year, I believed I could not run 500 meters. Tomorrow, sorry, I will be running 18 kilometers. I would have already run 18 kilometers by the time this comes out, I think. Anyway, and I believe in myself. I have full faith in myself. I can do this 18 kilometers. It's going to be goddamn hard, and it's actually probably going to be really boring. No, it's not going to be boring. I'm going to have such a fun time. I'm going to have such a fun time. I will have fun. But yeah, yeah. We've just got to have a bit of faith in ourselves. And yeah, yeah, I just honestly think we are the only ones limiting ourselves. And if you want something, you just have to want it and truly believe you are capable of it. And basically, so in this audiobook I've been listening to, which is called The Mountain Is You, it's basically all about self sabotage. And it felt very relevant for me at the time, because it's been hard to differentiate the difference between being a bit tired. I don't use the word burnt out, because I feel like that word gets thrown around a lot. Not burnt out, but like a bit burnt out. No, I will use that. It's hard to differentiate the difference between self-sabotage, being burnt out, just being simply tired, a lack of motivation, just needing to rest, and simply not being ready. And that's what's been going on in my head recently. I just haven't been able to differentiate the five or whatever. So this book was very helpful to listen to. And it basically was like, you imagine something, you want something, and if you kind of feel yourself going completely off course and driving in the complete opposite direction, that is self-sabotage. Like, obviously, you know what I mean. You're doing everything in your power not to do it, or you're finding excuses, or you just feel like it's not ready for you yet. And obviously there's going to be instances where the thing is not ready for you yet, or you're not ready to do that thing. But sometimes it is genuinely as simple as really just going for it. And I think the more we overthink things, the less that's going to happen, because the more we think, the less we do, and the less we think, the more we do. Do think about things you do. Do think about things you say. That does not mean have a thoughtless life, but if you have a gut instinct of this is what I am meant for in this current moment, you go do that. And don't let that little voice inside you tell you otherwise. And just try your goddamn best. And also, I also saw I saw this video today, and it was like, is this guy saying, I love hearing the word no, because eventually when I get to 25 no's, I'm gonna find my yes. Or when I reach 10 no's, I'm gonna find my definitely, or whatever. And he was like, every single time I get told no or I get rejected, I am 10% closer to that thing than I was a minute ago. And because he said most people view it as like, the more you get told no, the further away you are from your thing. But he was like, that's completely wrong, because your thing is always there and your thing's always waiting for you. And I loved that. And I thought, I love that. And I totally agree with that. And I think I can see that so vividly in my life, of like, you get told no or you get rejected, or that thing is just like, you need to take a little road trip until you find your thing, to truly understand and find the thing that's perfect for you. And yeah, so I hope maybe that gave you a bit more insight on allowing yourself to accept your capability. And I think, like, that this is just such like, okay, this is an example. Start of the year, way too scared to ever even think about starting a podcast, and now I have one. And now it's like, it's a comfort thing. Like, it's genuinely a nice, easy thing for me to film a podcast, edit it, and post it. Like, it's a comforting thing now. So that doesn't like give me anxiety anymore, just the thought of it. But if I didn't work through the part of anxiety, of panic, of like, oh my god, what's everyone else going to think of me, and all that, I would never be where I am today. And if I wanted to start something new, let's say it's kind of like something similar, like a podcast, I would have way less stress to do it, because I've done this thing. And every single thing we do is like it's a domino effect. Like, I feel like our lives kind of go like that in a sense, or like the things we do always sets off a catalyst for the next thing, etc., etc., etc. And yeah. And I feel like this is very on topic, as the podcast is called The Sky's the Limit. The sky is truly the limit. Well, I don't think it is. I don't even think the sky's the limit. But you know, we gotta gotta stay on brand. So the sky is truly the limit. Our brains are not the limit. We are truly limitless. And the only thing stopping you right now is your brain. Anyway, that is the end of the episode. I hope you guys all enjoyed, and I hope this resonated with you, as I feel like this is resonating with me as I'm talking. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. I hope it's beautiful, and I hope you appreciate the moments. It is, I think, officially autumn-esque weather. I think the pumpkins should come out. I think all the trees are turning, or they're balding. The skies are definitely a lot darker. but it's beautiful. And I think autumn is one of the most beautiful months because it's some of the most vivid change, and it feels so glamorous. And it feels so beautiful just seeing all the trees and all the leaves on the floor, and like the colors. Just honestly, I cannot describe the happiness I feel when I'm in autumn. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I'm sending so much love to you all. Lots of love, Skye.